Trucks are no one's friends. They are noisy, rude, and always ready to cause mischief for their engine. None of the engines like pulling trucks. But Eggward did. He always treats them with the same care and respect as coaches. And in return, the trucks never play any tricks on him. Come along, he sings as he puffs along. A good egg he is, the trucks titter to each other. No trouble for him, you hear? One market day, Eggward was sent to collect trucks of produce and dairy at the shunting yard. When he arrived, he found Percy, red in the face and very cross. Dear me, Percy, what's the matter? Mind my eggs! Rumbled an old voice. I'll not have my precious cargo ruined by an accident-prone engine! Eggward? Brian, Eggward, sighed Percy, leaving the bothersome box fan for a well-neared drink. Ah, so you're Eggward then, said Brian. I've been told you're a sensible sort. I trust you can keep my eggs safe for market. Most certainly, chuckled Eggward, and he buffered softly in front. The guard's whistle blew and Eggward steamed gently away. Soon they approached the main line, and Eggward began to pick up speed. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Cried Brian, catching Eggward by surprise. What is it? What's the matter? He asked, coming to a stop. Just what do you think you're doing? Wheezed Brian. You're going much too fast. I shan't be taking any risks with cargo as delicate as mine. I can be safe and fast, Eggward tried to reason, and if I go slow, we'll be late. No matter, said Brian firmly. I'm sure the market goers would much prefer to have their eggs delivered late than broken. Now be off, but slowly does it. Eggward is a very tolerant engine, but he could sometimes be very impatient. He hated being late and didn't like having to rush, but he also did like to make others upset. Very well, Brian, he sighed and set off again. Slowly. Now that's the way, said Brian approvingly. Just the sort of journey my eggs deserve. Some minutes later, they approached the first station. Eggward fearfully glanced at the station clock. 5 minutes behind schedule! He winced and tried to go a touch faster. Slower! Rasped Brian. My old frames nearly fell apart with that little maneuver of yours. Just think of what that would mean for your eggs. I know, groaned Eggward, and he slowed down once more. His patience was starting to wear thin, as was the truck's. Teach him a lesson. And better runs with James. After what felt like an eternity, Eggward arrived at Wellsworth Station. He tried not to look at the station clock, but he couldn't help himself. 15 minutes! He nearly shrieked and began to pick up speed. Eggward, you foolish rapscallion! Gasped Brian. What is the meaning of this tomfoolery? My eggs! I've had it up to my smoke box all this talk about your eggs, snapped Eggward. I expect my trains to run on time, and I don't expect to be ordered about on jobs I've done for years. If you aren't going to be helpful, you may as well return to the yard. Such crude manners, scolded Brian, with all the disappointment of an upset uncle. And with that, he slipped his brakes on. What now? Eggward almost cried. No matter how hard he tried, Brian would not budge. Find me another engine at once, demanded the old van. I won't allow my eggs to ride behind this charlatan. Suddenly, Eggward felt himself moving forward. Push, 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 chanted the trucks. No one talks like that to Eggward. Using their combined efforts, they began pushing the train forward. Unhand me, you fiends! Exclaimed Brian, but it was no good. Eggward and the truck's combined efforts outdid his own, and the train trudged on towards Market, Brian resisting all the way. You cannot do this to me! They arrived at last, and the farm hands quickly worked to unload Eggward's deliveries. Very well done, Eggward, they said. Not a single bruised vegetable, spilt churn, or... They stopped. Well, I see a few eggs were broken. That's a shame. Oh, end times! Cried Brian hoarsely, before glaring at Eggward. If you had just listened to me and gone slowly, then we wouldn't be in this deplorable situation. Of all the... Brian! Came a voice. Brian subsided as Farmer McCall came storming up. Have you been tormenting another engine with your constant demands to go slow? Brian said nothing, but the look on Eggward's face told Farmer McCall everything. How many times have we talked about this? Your eggs are precious, yes, but Eggward knows what he is doing. Odds those eggs wouldn't have broken if you'd let him do his job properly. But never mind that, look at what you have done to yourself. Brian looked down and gasped. His wheels had developed flats after being dragged along with his brakes on. That's it then, sighed Farmer McCall. You shall stay in your siding until I decide what to do with you. He turned and walked sternly away. Well, chuckled Eggward, I suppose the yoke's on you then. Brian grimaced as everyone laughed. Eggward and the trucks now have much greater respect for each other. Eggward now knows the trucks care a great deal about him, and the trucks always see to it that no one speaks ill of their favourite engine. And what of Ryan? Farmer McCall saw to it that the old van was given an appropriate punishment, and had him turned into a chicken coop. But truthfully, Brian doesn't mind. He finds the hens are much better company than the engines, and they take excellent care of their eggs.